Alright, welcome back to Offspring Chaos. On this episode, we're going to actually slap this LS3 into the engine bay. So, I'm going to show you in the video that we actually had to install it, yank it back out, reinstall it, and I'm going to show you why. So, once we get through that, we're going to actually start mocking up the headers and start plugging the electricals in and kind of find out where we are at with the build. And then we can kind of go from there. So, you guys stay tuned and hang in there and watch what we got going on. Alright, to give you guys a little update about what I did with the standalone harness is I actually used the stock grommet that is for the HVAC and everything else that powers up the blower motor and all the other stuff and the sensors down here for the AC and whatnot. So I actually pulled those wires back through and then I put them through the grommet for the standalone harness for the LS motor, and I just ran it through the same hole. So without having to drill another hole, because I've seen people install them over there, over there, over there, over there, all over the place. And I've also seen on a lot of videos and everything else like that is people actually hook them up to the engine and then forget that they actually have to route it through the firewall. And then they just end up saying screw it and mounting the PCM or the fuse block inside the engine bay, which I'm not a huge fan of because of debris and rain and everything else like that. There's going to be fuses, and this is not as covered as well as the Camaro, where the LS3 motor came out of. But so that's what we got going on here. I got all the plugs and the ejector plugs and coil plugs and all their stuff. So enough about that. So I'm gonna actually show you where I routed it in here. Open the door. So it actually wasn't too bad. I had to actually shove it up in there. That's where the stock HVAC harness, or not the harness, but the little HVAC wiring and everything came out. I just shoved it all in there, and then it's just kind of looping down in here. So we're probably going to mount the PCM and the fuse block right here, and then that's ample space for me and Sarah to actually start mounting all the stuff in here for the PCM and the fuse block and everything else like that. So it shouldn't be too bad. Once we get all that mounted, then we can start worrying about all the other stuff in here, like the fan signal wiring that's going to the relays, and ignition wiring, and the fuel pump wiring, everything else like that is going to get shot back to the fuel pump, and then everything in here for the cluster. So BP Automotive made this really, really simple. I swear, an elementary student could probably do this. Everything's all labeled and everything else like that, but actually that's gonna be one smart elementary student. But anyways, they made it really, really simple for the regular Joe Schmo to hook all this up if you're not really professional at wiring. So, but I got lucky and I got a professional wire as a wife, so she helps me out with all this stuff. But BP Automotive makes it that much more simple. So, kudos to them. All right, it is time to finally throw that into there. But we got a couple things that we need to do before that happens, like take the AC compressor off of this because it will not fit. But John's gonna actually, we're gonna get a bracket that kind of mounts the AC compressor up a little high. So we'll take care of that. And then we gotta take the trans cross member, loosen that up, slide it back out of the way. And I think we have to loosen these power steering lines, move those out of the way. And then let me show you some of the goodies that we got so far. We got the exhaust baffles that came in. It pretty much opens and closes so you can run open headers. And then speaking of headers, we got some long tube bad boys that came in from Speed Engineering. So they hooked us up with these. And then the harness we already talked about in the other video, but the harness that we got from BP Automotive that made it really simple for everything. So Dom and I are gonna get started on this, and hopefully probably within an hour or so we can have this thing slapped in here that we can actually start hooking all the electricals and everything else up. So let's get started. All right, we're about ready to hook the chains up to the engine. We got that big old Goliath thing put together. Only takes like 3 hours because everything weighs like 9,000 pounds. So yeah, we're gonna hook the chains up to the block and then have some weight for the whole, the whole event that's gonna happen. Have some weight on the back end so it'll actually lean back a little bit so we can kind of slide it in. So I don't want to forget that we need to loosen up that trans cross member so we can slide that out of the way, and then we can actually drop this bad boy in there. So. All right, so the motor's in here. I kind of threw in the headers already, kind of mocked up. Made sure there was enough clearance between the frame rails and everything else. So there's definitely enough space in here. So I can, shove my 4 fingers in there. There's a lot of clearance on this side and probably a half a pinky on this side. So that's not a problem. As long as the motor isn't jostling back and forth, we should have enough clearance to for the headers to actually get fully mounted in here. So I'm going to install the headers, the plugs, and get the rest of the harness and everything all connected up in here. Then we got to start doing rework on the HVAC wiring, get all that fixed up because there's a couple splits and whatnot in here that somebody did their own great wiring and everything else like that. So kind of tidy stuff up in here and kind of go from there. So let's do it. So I got this side done. Headers are on, plugs are on. Most of the harness is on the bank 1 side. On this side, I'm having a hard time getting the headers actually fully in place so I can bolt them into the block, because I forgot down in there, I don't know if you can see that, the dang exhaust is still routed all over to the back from the stock setup. So I'm going to have to kind of chop that off and get that out of there so I can finish that. So let's hurry up and do that so we can finish this side. Get out of here. Done. Let's continue. All right, headers are on. Plugs are on. Kind of plugged in the coils and everything else and routed where the mass airflow sensor is supposed to be plugged in on the passenger side. So we got to mock something up. It's going to be more of a cold air intake, and it's going to go down in here in the driver's side near the headlight. So both sides are out or in. The rest of the exhaust is gone. So what I did was, let's crawl under here right here. So I don't know if you can see that, but no, you can't. So I got the trans cross member just slid in place so the transmission's not falling on the ground. So it's more of a W shape, so the dual exhaust can actually run through the exhaust or through the cross member, because the stock one wasn't gonna work. So let's climb back up here, and we actually got some a cool setup going on here. We got these baffles. We're gonna hook straight up to the ends of we're gonna weld them on the long tube headers, and they're so you can actually run them wide open. So we're gonna hook these up to 12 volts. Sarah's gonna wire them in, but we need to weld these on the long tube headers. So either we get some kind of flange or something so we can bolt right up to it, or just weld straight to it. So I'm assuming that we should probably flange them up so we can take them off when we need to. But so yeah, that's pretty sweet what we got going on there. So they're pretty much, you can either run them dumps out the side or straight at the back with these flow masters, and they'll go straight out of the back. So, but I'm gonna send this up to engine or to the exhaust shop that I took my Ranger 5.0 up to, and they did a really good job. So yeah, looks good. So we actually still have a buttload of work to do. Like I said, we got to figure out fix the HVAC wiring. We still got to run a whole bunch of coolant hoses, power steering hoses, getting in the AC relocation bracket. So the AC is going to be sitting right here, and I'll do another video about that. We got to figure out the clutch stuff, figure out the stock bulkhead main harness, and we got to depin a lot of that stuff out of there and figure out what we need and what we don't need. We got to run all the wiring for the tach. We got new gauges and everything else like that. That's going to be another video. So we still got a buttload of work to do. So we also have, what's up, Shady? What's up, boy? We got to drop the stock tank, drain the fuel out of there, put the new tank in. We got a new center for it, new fuel pump. We got new, let's see here, what is this? I think that's all the hoses for the fuel. So we got to run that and everything else like that. There's a buttload of work to do. So, yeah, too much to do. So real quick, yesterday the cold case radiator finally came in. It was probably one of the first things that I did order, and it finally came in because they were on back order. And this thing, I can tell you, is sweet. It's all made out of aluminum and everything else, and came with the radiator and the fan shroud for the dual electric fans. So it's all stamped cold case and everything else like that. So the one thing that we do have to work on is actually getting brackets made to actually clamp on this core support in the front here, and then get everything all hooked up. We got the steam port connection here, and the top side of the radiator and the bottom side of the radiator, which we're going to have to somehow finagle some coolant hoses to actually connect with those. The one thing that did come in, let me walk over here real quick, is that the wiring for I think this is for the dual fans, but we're not going to need any of this stuff. All the stuff that for the 12 volt switching and the relays and everything is all controlled by the PCM and the fuse block that's already going to be installed into the truck. So we don't really need any of this stuff. It's for the thermal switch and everything else like that gets screwed into the block, but we're not going to need any of that stuff. So Yeah, so that's one cool thing that we got. All right, appreciate you guys watching. Getting this motor in here is making us that much more excited to actually hear this thing kick off. Hopefully it's super loud, but like I said, we still got a buttload of work to do. We got a whole bunch of electrical work to still plug in. We got to run the fuel, our steering, a whole bunch of other stuff. We got to figure out the clutch, but hopefully we can bring you guys along with us for the whole process. So appreciate you guys watching. See you guys next time.